Sylvester. Natalia is the author of the novels Chasing the Sun and Everyone Knows You Go Home. She studied creative writing at the University of Miami and is a faculty member of the low-res MFA program at Regis University in Denver. Born in Lima, Peru, she came to the U.S. at age 4 and spent time in Florida and the Rio Grande Valley before her family set roots in Miami. She now lives and works in Austin. Welcome, Natalia.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you, everyone, for inviting us to be here in celebration of this book. I'm very honored. I was going to read a little bit from my book, Everyone Knows You Go Home, and then I thought I would read some poems that I wrote, and realizing that I'm still exploring things that I was exploring in this book in just different ways. Before I started writing Everyone Knows You Go Home, maybe like the summer before, my dad and I went back to Lima in Peru to visit my grandfather who was on his deathbed. So we spent a few days by his side, and I wrote a lot in my journal, just kind of witnessing the way life leaves, right? And there's a scene in this book that was one of the hardest ones to write because it is, again, it's like a character on her last few days of life, and I ended up using a lot of, like, not realizing, but I ended up, putting a lot of those words into this scene. And it came out in a more, it's like very different from a lot of the book in that it almost comes out in little vignettes. So I thought I'd share that with you all today. I've removed names in order to avoid spoilers. Sometimes when she woke, she would hear them talking about her as if she were already gone. Perhaps it was that her eyes took so long to open. Perhaps it was that sleep already felt like another place. On the first day she asked, "How long was I asleep?" They said 15 hours, but to her it felt like nothing. It had not been like sleep at all. Not a long stretch of darkness that she later remembered. Not time accelerated by dreams or nightmares. It was a blink. It was so unreal. A lonely emptiness, a void that barely existed between a life and a death. She couldn't place herself there, in between. She felt better later, more complete. She wanted nothing but for them to be together, even if they didn't speak. Come, sit, stay, she told her children, but they didn't want her to feel crowded. She imagined them tiny, tucked under her arms beneath the white sheets, like they used to do when there were storms, or when the neighbors got too violent. They had been so afraid then, and they were children again, afraid now. Everything will be all right, she said, but they had stopped believing her words years ago. It'd been the price of growing up. Now it was the price of growing old. They no longer thought she was lying. They looked at her like she believed the wrong truth. She slept again. She just wanted to go home. "How long have I been here?" she asked the nurses and the doctors and anyone who would answer. 5 days, 6, 7. Once she heard someone say that they would just have to be strong and patient. She nodded and said, yes, patience is a process that births forgiveness. Her body had begun to feel ephemeral, like a twitching light bulb that any second would go tired, blink, and never turn back. The cruelty of it was, she didn't feel ephemeral. Her thoughts were as young and robust as the day she first fell in love, as the day she held her first child. She was so aware, clinging to these moments, resenting their passing. Words ached inside her head, trying to break through, and when she opened her mouth, nothing came out, or something else came out, and she couldn't always tell the difference. "I'm here," her son kept saying. "I'm not blind," she wanted to shout. "Can you hear me?" he said. "Yes, goddammit, I'm not deaf, are you?" The nurses came in and changed the sheets with her still in them. a strange way, this book has kind of been bookended by my grandfather's death. This book came out last year, and then at the end of last year, my grandfather died. And so I went to Miami, and I went with my mom and my sister and my cousins and my aunt to go take care of his cremation, and I wrote this poem. It's called Liability Horns. I'm still unsure how to spell granddaughter. If it is with one D or two, hyphen or none. It is much simpler where his ashes will be scattered. Nieta, diez, hijita de mi hijita. I asked if his death certificate could be written in Spanish. I kept saying birth instead. They kept saying English only. I got stuck there in between. I asked, will they know all his names? Will they know that my mother's father's name was once mine? In the land he was born, banished in the country where he died. They could not spell it, could not place it on their mouths or their maps or the X where I signed. They did not make room for it on my fertile, rich green card when we arrived. Foreign like granddaughter, I ask, what makes me so grand anyway? If my tears could not help him when the fire came. So much of our history is dying. I was also thinking a little bit recently just about the way relationships begin and end, and so this poem was inspired by, I had a friend when I was 18, it was like a very intense friendship, but very short-lived, and I think about her so many times. She used to write songs, and a lot of times, she just, so this poem is called For Alicia. Your song comes to me in moments I would call random if I didn't know better. The humming rattle of a hotel mini fridge, fresh sheets in a musty room, the contentment of a home I carry. In that quiet, I sing the words you wrote when we still loved each other. When our friendship was a youngling creature, cradled in our palms like a moth led back to night, too soft for our hungered touch. I didn't know then we were not the ones with wings. We had just seen something sparkle. I write you a poem instead of calling or friending because I know after all these years, what we had will never amount to more than what we gave each other in our last goodbye. Y'all are such a nice audience. I'll just read one more. This one is pretty self-explanatory. It's called Recipe for Assimilation. A chemical reaction in which what changes can never be undone, because heat burns, melts, evaporates our particles. Sometimes I walk into the kitchen and smell remnants of who we once were, taste a memory at the tip of my tongue, crispy rice scraped from the bottom of the pot, corn kernels I dream are teeth I lose and then swallow, milk pressure cooked until it turns sweet, a recipe my grandmother has remembered and will forget, will only pass to us through the heart. Stir with a wooden spoon until your feet and back ache, until you've melted into this country serves no one like us. Give thanks before, during, and after you eat. This dish we've made is a meal we should be happy to be a part of. Toss until they can't tell our ancestors from our colonizers, until they call it Spanish food, Spanish accent, Spanish people. In this version of America that is actually called US, there is no us. There's only them, glowing on hot-blooded soup, not too spicy, not too strong, not too brown, for fear of heartburn and indigestion. And there is we, will not be made pepto, will not provide comfort and relief. We will not go down easy on the stomach. We will not be diluted, be consumed. We have never been food. We have always been the fire. Blue like our skies and oceans, visible heat releasing light. Miracles moving particles, miracles moving molecules home to our very core. the hottest part of the flame.